right, if you're just joining us, this is where we are. Dan has no heat in his house. He's on hold with customer service, listening to the girl from Impanina.
I am.
Kevin has muted himself, which usually means something big is happening in Michigan. Russ is apparently fine.
He's actually the person keeping me on hold.
Right, Russ. So Dan, we're gonna mute Dan for now.
Yes.
So because we don't want to hear the kind of explicatives he would give to customer service.
I'm not angry yet.
Yeah. All right. So Dan's
you don't want to see Dan angry, apparently.
No, you wouldn't like Dan when he's angry.
Because you always see me angry.
Grumpy.
Anger, I don't know, Mike. I don't know if anger is the word I would use.
It's grumpiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I will be decidedly less grumpy tomorrow if a certain pinstripe baseball team wins their playoff game at Yankee Stadium tonight.
They're not winning.
Oh, stop it, Mr. Negative.
They're not a good team.
And Houston is?
Houston has a lot better young players. We'll see what the youth does compared to.
I'm not disputing that, and I'm not disputing that Keuchel is going to be a tough matchup for the Yankees. But he is pitching on.
Lefty? Is Keuchel a lefty?
Yes, he's pitching on. He's pitching
on
the
Yankees.
Surely at this point, the Daily News has used the headline "Houston, we have a problem," right?
I'm sure. And who's catching for the Yankees, Mike?
What's that?
Who's catching for the Yankees?
Probably McCann.
Oh, they're going to let him hit against the lefty? Okay.
Paul, our Nashville blogger?
No. Jared McCann, the prospect for the Vancouver Canucks.
Good, because Paul's got a job to do. He's got to get our readers ready for the Predators season.
All right, we'll try this once the show's over.
All right, that's fine, Dan. Dan's gonna rough it out.
And Kevin drops off the line.
We lost Kevin.
I have shorts on, and poor Dan has like a hoodie on. I feel bad.
No, it's not cold. It's not cold in here. I just want to, I figure let's nip it in the butt now.
Please, Russ. I just ate lunch.
But here's the thing, first of all, I keep my office probably in the 50s. Like literally, it could not be colder than it is here all the time. I hate being hot. Hate it.
Is there a jukebox there? No, just kidding.
Yeah, the nifty 50s, and and my wife and I, we have a constant battle about heat and air conditioning in this house at night because I like to sleep in very, very cold weather. Like I do not. Above 70 to me is ridiculous. Like.
Oh yeah, my house doesn't hit 70.
Oh good, you see, yeah, but my wife 72 is my wife's magic number. She likes to sleep there.
Oh.
People think that I'm insane when I tell them that I keep my heat at 60 degrees during the winter in Buffalo.
See, that keeps you alive. That keeps you fresh and keeps you going. That's my theory.
It does keep you fresh. I agree with that.
It keeps you alive because you cannot. We are very soft Americans, and we just completely have gotten, and I want to know when it's getting colder outside. So the fight that goes on here.
I'm a little worried about Dan. He's gone from being cold.
Well, wait, now there's a joke here.
I was gonna say, is that the J.F. Berube bobblehead?
This is the AHL bobblehead. This is a Bridgeport Sound Tigers bobblehead of Andrew McDonald.
There you go, baby.
Well, we could see more AHL bobbleheads of Andrew McDonald in the near future, but
he's not amused.
Yes, not amused at all.
Dan, I remember one of our old Hockey Buzz podcasts that we did on the Central Division that we talked about Andrew McDonald signing that contract with Philadelphia, and I think both of us laughed heartily.
I first guessed that. Yes, I did. Although I believe I said he wouldn't see the end of that contract. I didn't think it'd be a year.
Right.
I
feel bad. He's a good guy. I wish him well, though.
So good to know everything, guys. It's so good.
No, wait. He hasn't really seen.
That's right. It's so good to be all-knowing.
They did say he could be recalled.
Coming back. This is all about the Flyers are just desperate for someone to go on long-term injury reserve. They are. They
not this year. That's a fair point.
They need that like no one's business. They need someone to get really, really hurt.
They need someone to assume the throne of Chris Pronger.
Right. Otherwise, because you just see Bill Meltzer did a great blog of the kind of players the Flyers can afford to call up right now, and it's just like it's only guys on entry-level contracts. So and only guys on minimum contracts. So
I don't want to say it, but you know who they need to go on long-term IR.
Yes, we do. Yeah, that's very. But if they don't play him, that's not going to happen. I don't see. So I think you got to play him to get him hurt. I mean, that's the bottom line because he's scratched in the opening game, and yeah, I mean that problem is there. So
there are many candidates I think they would sort of hope for, but
well, I just they're just
There's one really.
Yes.
So.
Yes, unfortunately there is. But, and they're counting on this, I think. I honestly think they are counting that someone will go on long-term injury reserve because that's the only way that this team can possibly – because if someone goes on short-term reserve and they have to pull up the guys they have to pull up from the Phantoms, it's going to really get ugly. And
I have a legit question.
Yeah.
Will there ever be a salary cap that nobody tries to circumvent and everybody can just use the way it was intended to be used? Is that impossible?
But
Yes.
Here's the deal on that, too. Like, everybody laughs when Gary Bettman used to say that we have to try to protect the game from the general managers and everybody looked at that. So that's ridiculous because they're the guys that kind of run the team and they're responsible for that. But we see it all the time. GMs spend too much money and they get themselves in a bind and they overspend and they don't. Some teams obviously pay more attention to what's happening in the future than others, and
Well, it's funny because
I honestly think that what they're saying there, what Bettman really means, he doesn't want to say, is if to protect teams from the owners. Because honestly, this is the owners that are spending the money. I mean, the general managers are making the moves, but they're not getting these budgets without the owners' approval.
Yeah, but they are. But here's the only argument I make for that. I mean, mostly I think you're right, but owners are not sitting around thinking about the projection moving forward every year. They just basically approve a budget for this season.
Right.
It's the GMs who are saying, we're committing too much money, 2 years from now and 3 years from now, and so forth, and then they get themselves in trouble. Because I just don't think owners think in those terms. They think of, okay, you can't spend more than this amount this season, and where the GMs get in trouble is they've already committed X amount of dollars for next season, and they only have 14 guys under contract.
Right.
So forth. So
The NHL is setting themselves up for something. Sorry, Mike, I interrupted you again. Go ahead, Mike. You go first. Go ahead.
I was just going to say an interesting scenario is sort of playing out right now in Toronto with Stefan Robida because he didn't make the team. They basically told him he didn't make the team. The speculation was yesterday in the morning that he was going to be placed on waivers, and a number of really fine hockey reporters were reporting that, and then his name didn't appear on the waiver wire, and all of a sudden, now they're saying that this injury has been lingering throughout the preseason, but all of a sudden he comes up with a knee and a groin injury, and I'm not hinting at any kind of chicanery here, but they're saying
what exactly are you saying?
There's a possibility that he may never get in the lineup again. I'm like, okay, this guy played 20 minutes on Friday against Detroit and didn't have a major injury in the game, and all of a sudden he's not going to be in the lineup. It's like this is an organization that can afford to put that to pay him that $3 million the next couple years and put him on long-term injury instead of waiving him and sending him down to the AHL where he may not want to go. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out. He could be in the lineup again next week if his knee and his groin situation straighten out, but it also could happen that he never plays for the Leafs again and he's on long-term injury.
He will play. I'm telling you, Stefan Robida will play. He gets hurt every year, and he plays every year.
Yeah, I mean, what if it was just Robida saying, "Hey, look, you can't send me down. I mean, I'm hurt. I've been playing hurt because I'm trying to make this team, and I'm not going to do it anymore."
Right, but although Mike does bring up a good point. And by the way, you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is Tuesday, October 6th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Kevin Allen.
And I am Eklund, and that's my phone. And you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you Monday through Friday, and my wife knows not to call it this time. So it's 1 o'clock, and 1 o'clock is the time that we do podcasts. And no, that's not my wife. Just kidding.
Well,
anyway.
While you're answering that phone, Ek, we can talk about Raffi Torres.
That would be wonderful, but let's not do that yet. Let's get back to this for a second. What we were talking about, because there was one thing I wanted to bring up. Although Mike, your conspiracy theories, and I am I love me a good conspiracy theory like no one's business. I do, and I grew up on Art Bell, so I am totally into this. But here's the thing, I will say, I don't think you're that far off because I do think that in the future we're going to see an NHL sanctioned doctors have to make certain kinds of calls because there's on a couple things. One, I think that when a player gets hurt and can never play again, there should be something where he can see a doctor, an NHL doctor, like the Chris Pronger situation, and the guy should be able to retire and it figured out in a different way than we have right now. Like right now, this situation is very, to me, hacked together. And I know they're afraid a team doctor will say certain things. We just need an NHL. We need an NHL doctors in New York that you can send a guy who's never going to play again to, who can determine whether or not that guy is pretending to be sick or not. Like that's what we need.
A medical ombudsman.
Right. And along with that comes situations like this where guys get put on long-term injury reserve. This is, I mean, we joke about it, but yeah, what if, Vinny Lecavalier doesn't want to go down to the minors, for example, or he can't go, he's have no movement clause, so he can't go to the minors. So, but the Flyers need the cap space. This is it's a weird situation because, what's for a guy to say, I've got a messed up back? You don't think Vinny Lecavalier has a messed up back? I mean, I bet you he's got a messed up back. I bet you can go to a doctor right now who can tell people that he's got any NHL player who's played that long in the NHL can find a herniated disc on an MRI. Trust me. I mean, I've got 3 of them, and all I do is write about hockey. So, I mean, there's no question that's so. There's a way. I mean, there is always a way to do this, and it feels like we need some kind of centralized. And I don't think we need it now, but I think there's going to come a time when we're going to really notice it. That we're going, and I think the more the salary cap gets crazier, like we're talking about, the Flyers literally need a guy to get hurt, which is ridiculous to say, but honestly, is the case to make their cap because they can't call up players right now. So there needs to be another. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that? Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I mean. I know what you're saying, but I think the league has the power right now to investigate whether a guy's truly hurt or not.
Yeah.
So I think they probably have the power. I can't remember ever looking at this in the CBA, but I'm sure.
Happened, though, has it? Has it ever happened?
No. I don't know. I wouldn't want to say yes or no. I bet at some point somebody has complained about somebody not being on,
right?
Legally hurt, but but I'm sure the league has the power to go in and say, look, you got to prove this guy's hurt.
Right. That makes sense. We got lots to go in and get into. So let's get into the show. The main part of the show. Hopefully we won't be fighting echoes too much. Turn down your volumes, folks, if you can, at home, or not at home. You don't have to at home. What you're watching at home can be as loud as you want it to be.
We're just speaking like for their neighbors. That's great.
But if you're on the show, don't. So let's start with Rafi Torres because it's so much fun to discuss. And we're not going to get into it much. I mean, does anyone here on this panel believe the NHL did the wrong thing? I think they did the right thing.
I think the NHL was ecstatic to give this suspension because it was served to them on a golden platter. It's like you have a recidivist offender.
Nice word.
In Torres, who what was the last suspension? 25 games, I think it was.
Right.
And this wasn't even close to being the worst hit that he's ever thrown. But he's been a repeat offender constantly over and over. He's been warned, and this was an opportunity to drop a bomb on him, and they did. If somebody does a similar hit to him that he did, who doesn't have the record that he has, I think it's a 5, 6, maybe 7 game suspension. But because it's Torres, he gets 41 games. Kevin, what did you think?
Exactly. I completely agree with that. I'm not even sure it would have been 5 or 7. I think it would have been about a 4-game suspension. Maybe even 3, depending on who the player was and what his history is. But it wasn't. Basically, if the NHL wouldn't have suspended him for that length of time, the message would have been there's no consequences for habitual offenders. And he's technically not a repeat offender because he had enough space between his last suspension, but he's a serial predator. He's a habitual offender, and a lot of my readers have sent emails saying, "Hey, look, this is how he has to play to be in the league, and I say baloney on that. Like, there are a lot of physical players who manage to have a reputation for being physical players and to be intimidating players, and yet they don't get called in to the Office of Player Safety as regularly as Rafi Torres has. So I don't buy the idea that for the league to punish him like this now renders him almost useless as a player. I mean, you can still play physical and not go over the line.
Russ, this is the penalty that the NHL never got a chance to give to Matt Cook or a guy like Brian Marchment, who always used to take out people at the knees. Torres gave him the opportunity, and they hit him with the book.
Yeah, I mean, again, you kind of wonder why GMs are still signing these guys. You do. He can skate a little bit. His offensive skills haven't been good in years. They just haven't. Will he occasionally score a dirty goal? Sure. Will he be dirty on the ice every shift? Yes. And I think that's the
Keep going.
No, it's one of these things where I don't like players like this in the league. I'm glad he got this kind of suspension. I wish he'd be out of the league.
Okay. Russ, log off and log back in. Dan, I think that the NHL got it right. But I don't know if this means that down the line there's going to be an increase in penalties. I know that I heard a couple commentators say that down the line this means that anybody who throws a hit, even if they're not a repeat offender, they're going to get a significant increase in the amount of the game suspension. I don't think that's the case at all. I think this was a standard for Torres and a standard for a repeat offender, but it's not going to affect the overall of what the Department of Player Safety does.
Right. I think the question that needs to be asked here, I think the NHL obviously got this right. This was a slam dunk case for them with someone who has been a serial offender when it comes to these hits. I think we really, the league hit the nail right in the head there. But the question that I have for the league is, will they suspend their stars?
Yeah. They've
been reluctant to suspend their stars when they've had marginal hits. Ovechkin had a slew of marginal hits in the playoffs last year. Shea Weber obviously has had some dicey hits in the past, although I don't think he's a dirty player. But some of these players have had some serious, offensive hits, and I just want to see will the league be daring and suspend one of their top players more than 1 or 2 games for a marginal hit.
And Kevin, that was what I immediately reacted to when the suspension was laid out. I mean, it's great that the NHL is doing this. I completely wholeheartedly agree. But if you let a guy like Ovechkin, who is a star player, and we've talked about this a couple times last year when he had some questionable situations. I realize he's a star, but I realize in all pro sports, stars get star treatment and get calls different than other players. But when we're talking about the safety of other players, if Ovechkin or somebody like Ovechkin, like say Milan Lucic, does something, they have to be penalized just like the third or fourth liner is.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I think you're absolutely right, and I mean. We've all seen hits that looked borderline by Ovechkin that it seemed like they could have gone suspension. And I also agree that it was easy to throw Rafi Torres overboard. If you suspend Rafi Torres for 41 games, it's not going to